Tree Talking Time is brought to you by Conkey's Outdoors. Get all your hound hunting needs at conkeys.com. Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest fights to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game. Need reliable housing for your animals? Animal Housing Solutions in Mayo, Florida builds custom coops, kennels, and shelters that are strong, durable, and designed with your animal's comfort in mind. Whether you need a large-scale kennel or a small custom chicken coop, they've got you covered. Quality craftsmanship, great service, and solutions built to last. That's the Animal Housing Solution promise. Check them out at Animal Housing Solutions on Facebook. Animal Housing Solutions, where your animals come first.
Not too many people can say this today, but my first coon hunt was in 1944, and I was 6 years old.
Nice.
And my dad took me hunting that night for a birthday gift.
That's pretty cool.
And I used a little Model 60 Winchester. Matter of fact, I just picked it up upstairs last night.
That's pretty
And
cool.
they had a little gold bead out on the front, and you could drive tacks with that thing.
Nice.
It was a real rifle,
Yeah.
light and made for coon hunting.
That's pretty cool. How big of a rifle is that?
That's a 22. Shoots 22 shorts, 22 long rifle. Just, they used to call them just them little plunking rifles. They're
Okay.
something you got for a young kid, and that's what he did. He got me that Winchester Model 60.
Gotcha.
Uh,
Why don't you introduce yourself, Junior?
Well, my name's Junior Pyles. I'm 88 years old. I live in a little town here, Sardis, Ohio. I've spent my whole life here, and I've done nothing but coon hunt. And that's pretty well can cover my life between coal mine, 4 children, and a good life.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got a lot of stories for you.
Yeah, let's hear them. That's what we want. That's what I'm after. I love talking to guys that have lots of experience, and especially your experiences are vastly different than the experience that people live today. There was a lot of things that were different. You know, modern technology was not around. You guys just,
Right.
I would imagine
Yeah.
you could just hunt just about anywhere back then. That's the kind of the gist of most of the old coon hunters I've talked to. They're like, yeah, we just went coon hunting. We knew
Right.
everybody.
You just, we hunted from the house. Usually back then, we had, they either put the dogs in the trunk and cut a 2x4 and tied the trunk down so the dog would get air, or they would take the back seat out of an old car and haul the dogs in there.
Okay.
And that's the way we coon hunted.
Mm-hmm.
And there was never, once you drove to your hunting area and you stopped that vehicle, you never started again until you was ready to go home.
Yeah.
In other words, you walked.
Yeah.
You didn't. And back then, the dogs were bred. They were hounds, and they'd breed them down to, they'd have an 8th shepherd in a black and tan. My dad would, or you'd have a red bone with an 8th bull in him.
Mm-hmm.
They hunted great dogs, but I try to tell the people today, but they sometimes don't listen or think it's not right, and which that's okay too. But the great dogs were a lot smarter dogs than what the dogs are today.
Yeah.
They got them bred up, high geared, go in there, mow, ambush a coon, and be by yourself. Well, if you turn the clock back to 1944, and that type of dog, people wouldn't, they would either put it down or get rid of it. Well, old Fast Freddy's in there, a mow, getting that one coon, and you had that great dog, and he'd drift around 300 to 400 yards, 5, like a bird dog, and he treated every coon you could get behind that dog.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just a different style of dog back then. They were more trailing dogs and just deadly accurate tree dogs. Yeah, and would they fit in the hunts and things they're doing today? No, because they would win so that locate, and you'd wait a minute or two, and you knew what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
He was checking that tree all around, and he sat down then. Load the rifle because you're going to see a coon or it's a legal den tree. They were dead accurate dogs, but they've got them bred up, so they're a whole different style of dog today than what they was back then.
Oh, yeah.
And just think about even the style walker dogs I got today. If you didn't have a tracking collar and you had to go back the way we hunted, it would be a whole different ball game.
Oh, for sure.
Because all you had was a lantern, and mostly back then, except for my birthday, we used that 22 rifle.
Yeah.
But back then, you had a carbide light or a lantern.
Yeah.
One guy he'd put it up on his head, or damn season come in November the 1st years ago here in the high.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it'd be still leaves on them. You used a 20 gauge shotgun. The guy stood in back of the guy with the light. Then you shot him out.
Yeah.
But it's a whole different ball game today.
Oh, for sure. How far? I mean, obviously you didn't have a tracking collar, so I know you're not going to know this exactly like you would today, but how far do you think those dogs back then hunted? You know, were you talking a couple hundred yards, 1,000 yards, a mile?
If you had a good, broke, solid dog, but now you got to remember too, when you're saying, when they started out, a lot of the great dogs were trashy, real trashy, and you had to break them. But usually they would hunt 400 to 800 yards, maybe.
Okay.
And he'd hunt all around you. And when he checked in, then you moved up maybe 200 or 300 more yards, and he'd cast in that direction 600, 700, 800 yards, probably at the most.
Okay.
But they covered the ground, and they didn't miss many counts.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say today, a lot of these dogs going deep like that, they're passing up a lot of coon. They're running to get that hot pop-up coon.
Oh, I would say the same.
It's a whole different style of hunting.
Yep.
So, yeah, and the breed of dogs I've had for like 40 years or longer. And
now, when did you get into having registered walkers?
I got walker dogs way back, probably 19. I'm just going to best memory. I'd say 1958.
Okay.
And but I got into the my breed, what I call my breed. They all go back to Wabash River Blaze, Wabash River JoJo, and Jar. They won the first 2 PCA, that's what they called it then, world champions.
Okay.
Jar won it 1 year, the first year. JoJo won it the second.
Nice.
And JoJo produced Wabash River Blaze that won the 87 World Hunt.
Okay.
And that's where my dogs all, the show dog that I had, I won Southeastern Walker Days that year. He was 14 months old. He was high scoring dog both nights.
Wow. It's impressive for a 14-month-old dog.
In the registered cast.
Mm-hmm.
I still got the trophy upstairs. 14 months old. The next year, I took him to Walker Days up in Ashland High. They had it that year. and I was high scoring night champion dog that year, Walker days. So they're a good bred Walker dogs, or I think they are.
Yeah.
And the pictures I'll send you is every dog that you see with the title Rich Fork in front of it that come from this kennel right here in the High. I started that. And the way I took the kennel name was from my old school. It's that way back on Route 260. It was an old schoolhouse, and back in the 50s, 60s, early 60s, late 60s, we had a lot of big hunts, and people like Roy Collins, the guy out of Pennsylvania that started the Lone Pine Dogs, Blaine McGill. I knew all those people.
Okay.
Like I said, Ernie Gillespie, I sold Ernie Gillespie a dog back in the day for pretty good money. And that's where I came up with the name Rich Fork, because the old Rich Fork Sally, that's where she come from, that country. So I just called her Rich Fork.
Yeah.
But, I've had good luck with him. We won 11th place with the son out of Shug, which is a dog called Rich Fork Hugger. And he won 11th place that year in the World Run.
Wow.
And, yeah. It's, the guys today, a lot of the people look at what the winner is and how many hunts he's won. And when I breed dogs and study their pedigree, I always look at the females.
Yeah. The
females will put more into a dog than, and a lot of people won't believe this, than the male does. I say the female's got about 60%. If you can find them, and it's very hard to do, but that's when you make what they call the great cross or a good cross.
Mm-hmm.
Is I study every generation, and I look at the females all the way back, and we took the Hugger semen and bred it to a little money female.
Okay.
And that made a terrific cross, and I call her Rich Fork Shady Lady out here. She's a 2-year-old dog, nice walker dog. And I've studied pretty well the pedigrees, and I made the choice if I breed her, and this just the old man's opinion. I've watched these dogs, and he's a friend of mine. I know him. We haven't ever got to hunt together, but I know him back in the day when he was a young man. And that's Chuck Dunlap.
Okay, yeah.
And that's one of the most, I think he's got one of the most overlooked stud dogs right now in the Walker breed. And that's the dog I choose. I'm going to breed her to.
Okay.
That's on the old man's bucket list. That'll probably be the last litter of pups I ever raised.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's all on what you want. I tell young people what I tell you. If you think it's good, you keep it. If you don't agree with it, just throw it away, because we're still going to be friends.
Yep.
But it doesn't change my way of thinking.
No.
I've studied the dogs for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And there's good walker dogs out there, a lot of good dogs. But like I said, you just got to make that good cross. And that's what I look for. But
especially in the Walker breed, I feel like there's a ton of variety in that breed. You hear about the big money winning dogs a lot, but I know quite a few big game hunters that hunt walkers that are just vastly different. They're walkers, but they're not like a competition bred coonhound, in their style and the way they hunt. Then I've talked to pleasure hunters that have walkers, and they're like, yeah, my dogs are nothing like that. They don't blow through the country. So I think there's a lot of variety in the walker breed. It's just, you got to do your homework. It's easy to find the competition, go yonder, get treed, hot nosed, looking for that hot coon,
Right.
get treed quick dog. They're easy to find because that's what's winning. And so, but
Right.
if
They're
you like something else,
they're breeding the dog to meet the rules and run up a good score quick.
Yeah.
And they want them to be, and you can man make them, but I don't like that.
Yeah.
They'll turn a dog in there and keep working on him and shocking him to where he just refuses to tree with another dog.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they like that. But to me, what made the shug dog so good, winning state hunts, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, he was a tough hound. And the type style of hunting dog he liked to get off by himself, but he was the type dog, he got a little bit of everything going on.
Mm-hmm.
And when you got a dog like that, you can hunt all the time you want to hunt with these deep with herself dogs, and he's going to beat you night after night because he's getting a little bit of everything going on. Plus, he gets by himself a lot.
Yeah.
That's the kind of dog that you're going to really win with.
Mm-hmm.
And what they got now, and it's just, again, opinion. When UKC and them started saying, hey, we're going to just go with cast runners. Well, what I do, and also looking, and I advise people, if you're going to pick a stud dog, go look how many times he's been bred,
mm-hmm.
look at the different females, how they're bred, and just don't go on one good female. If that dog has bred 5 different females and there's 1 or 2 good dogs turning up out of every litter, that's a pretty good dog to breed to.
Yeah.
But what they're doing today is, and this is just fact, I do it every year. When they have the Tournament of Champions and a lot of these, and that's why I really favor that Tournament of Champions, because they'll post them scorecards.
Yeah.
And there's people around, got it on Facebook, and they got it in book. Here's a stud dog. He's winning this and that. He's a Grand Night or whatever they call it, triple Grand Night now and all that. Yes, that's right. But think of one thing. Let's see what he does when he takes the trip to Big Town.
Oh, yeah.
And I look through, and what I hope they never stop doing, they post the scorecards and the cast. There's where you're going to pick your stud dog.
Yeah.
When you see all these Grand Nights running up to Tournament Champions and they can't win their cast, here's my opinion. I'm not going to breed my female to that dog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can win in a little backyard hunt, and they should have never took that first place win. You had to have a first place with plus points to make a night champion.
I understand.
And that's what I think it really hurt the dogs for breeding purposes. I really do. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of changes. It's been for the better. And then sometimes I think there's a lot of changes that's not any good. And that's one I think should have never been done. And
what are some changes that you've seen that you think are for the better?
What's that?
What are some changes that you've seen that you think are for the better?
Well, and I could never figure this out, but I agree. Back in the day when you went to hunts, you had a non-hunting judge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they said that's hard on the club, that's this and that. But let me tell you, back then you had a higher caliber of dog. Now, some people won't want to agree with that, and that's okay. But yeah, that rule change right there. Now, when you get up into the Tournament Champions, you get into PKC and get into them bigger things, the further up you get, and then pretty soon they'll say, well, we're going to have not hunting judge now.
Yeah.
Well, that if you had that from the get-go, the first night on non-hunting judges, I think you'll see a difference.
Okay.
I checked it once in PKC when they were starting, when Jim Meeks had PKC.
Mm-hmm.
I knew well. I went around to a few hunts, and this has happened a lot more in UKC. And I told him, I said, this is wrong. You got to go to these smaller clubs. You can go to 5 hunts a year that they put on, and I can pick 3 clubs out around that I know. And the same guy carries a scorecard every time.
Yeah.
That's another thing you want to look at when you say, hey, this guy's got a grand night, and boy, he's got this. We'll just say, wait a minute. They've got it on the computer, UKC. Just call them up and say, in all this dog's cast win, who carried the card?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find out a lot of times, 80% of the time, the same guy carried. I don't think they should be allowed to do that, but they do it.
I understand what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not, because I don't care who it is. If I carry the scorecard and I really want to just fudge the rules a little bit, the guy carrying the card's always got the advantage. And a lot of people disagree with me on that, but just same way you get in an argument, well, the dogs are treed. That dog's be said, oh, wait a minute, that dog moved. Well, used to, that was all on the judge's call. Right there, you got in a lot of problem. And and always I try to explain to people, if you got a dog and you're running him in the hunts, and you get the ratio, if you can win 5 to 6 hunts out of 12 hunts, you've got a real dog, because most guys won't want to talk about it. And but here's the way I look at it. I lost more than I ever won. I won some big hunts. I had some, what I believe, top-notch dogs. But listen, I've lost a lot of them too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Same way as well in these stud dogs. Oh, buddy, you breed to him, you're going to get a world champion. Well, just take a look at it and look at his pad and say, it'll tell you a lot. If you get, there's been 2 top litters I know in my lifetime. There was one that threw 5 male dogs, and all of them turned out to be Grand Night champion back in the day when it's stuff make a dog.
Yeah.
Now, the changes you asked me from the old days up front and the most best thing he did, I worked in a coal mine. And just think this, and I asked the hunters today, well, how many hard hunters is there? Oh, man, Joe Blow down the road's the hardest hunter I ever seen. Well, let me explain to you. How about in the late 59 through 68 in there, Chuck Dunn, a friend of mine, used to drive from here on the High River to Kilbucka High in an old station wagon, wood dog box in the back. 3-hour elimination hunt in UKC. Now, let me tell you, back in the day when you had a dog could do that, you had a king dog. And I'm talking people like John Shuttler, Chuck Dunn. I was long. I had decent dogs, but nothing great. And we would stay up there. If you got winning, I always said the worst part is winning. So the first cast, go out, hunt 3 hours, come back. Now the next cast, winners, would hunt 3. That final cast, sometimes you'd be turning loose at daylight.
Oof.
We would go back, put the dogs in the back end of the station wagon, leave the windows down, the back end open, lay a canvas on underneath. So if it started raining and we all took 2 pillows or 2 cushions, we'd lay there and sleep till about 1 o'clock on a Sunday and then get up and drive home.
Yeah.
I wonder how many guys would do that today. And,
not many.
And when you won, and I've still got pictures, and I kept a couple of them, you won like a 10 or 12-inch trophy.
Mm-hmm.
And you thought, man, when you brought that home, everybody in the valley's going nuts.
Yeah.
So the changes, that's one thing I think was good, because it just beat you to death. I mean, it took a lot of time and a lot of involvement. And but I just wonder today how these dogs today would stand up to that kind of hunting.
There's certainly some guys that their dogs would, but there's a lot of guys their dogs wouldn't.
Well, the other thing, how many guys would stand up to that kind of pressure?
Yeah.
But, and you know, a lot of people will say, well,
Conkey's Outdoors is proud to be a sponsor of Tree Talking Time. Family, hunting, tradition is the Conkey's motto. They understand the importance of passing down the tradition of hound hunting. They are a family-owned business that treats you like family. They also understand the importance of having the gear you need when you need it. Conkey's carries everything for your next hunt, and it ships to your door quick. They also offer great warranties on all tracking systems and financing options. Check them out at conkeys.com. You can also use the code TreeTalkingTime5 in all caps to save as well.
Boy, Junior's done a lot of winning. He's done that. Yes, but then you put it in the right perspective. Junior done a lot of losing too.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't get it in your mind, and so many people today through this country, not only this, playing ball, whatever, what happened? Oh, I was cheated. I was cheated. Everybody was cheated. I don't care if you're running for election of a dog catcher. I was cheated. They cheated me. Well, wait a minute. What about when you won that big hunt? Did you cheat? Oh, no. No. There was no cheating when I won. Only when I lose.
Yep.
And I look at them and I think, But there's just times that you run into, you'll have a bad cast. I've done it many times. Make a foolish mistake, different things. But here's another little story for you. Back when they was having the U.S. Championship, and that was a big hunt. It was $25 entry fee, and I had that Richford Crybaby, and she was a tough hound. And we was in the cast. I could name some big-time hunters back then. Most of them's gone, but I won't do that. But anyway, we turned out, and we had a non-hunting judge. We cast in this country where the guide and the judge told us we'd hunt. Well, we treed 4 coon, and that female of mine had first and first on everything.
Nice.
I mean, and he said, well, what they did, we got in there deep, and they said, well, we're going to turn the dogs and head back towards the vehicle. And I said, you sure you want to do that? Wouldn't it be better to call time? And no. And we had I don't know, due to 2 other dogs being there, we probably had 15 spectators.
Okay.
Then it looked like a caravan. And anyway, we got back to vehicles. Here's 3 dogs there, and only 1 dog's missing. Mine.
I figured.
And I just stepped in behind the truck, and I said, strike and tree her right there. And now this is the 5th coon she's treed that she's got first and first on.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, buddy, that's not your dog. And I said, yeah, that's my female. Well, he said, I'll tell you what, everybody agrees we're going to drive. That dog's 2 squares over. I said, well, I can't help that. That's my dog. So we all get in the vehicles. We drive around there. Park. I go down, and She's treed right in by a guy's barn, just a pasture field. She probably wasn't 250 yards off of the road. All these vehicles pull in, and the judge told me, "You wait, and if I'm going down, you stay there. If that's your dog, we'll plus it. If you don't, I'm gonna scratch you. That's not you're calling the wrong dog." And well, here's that story. I go down there, I see two lights coming. I'm thinking, well, that's a judge, and I see all the vehicles up there. I'm waiting. Once all the vehicles, there was about, I'd say that night with all the spectators, probably 8 or 9 trucks.
Oh, geez.
They all leave.
Yeah.
Here comes these two lights, and they come down there. And he said, "Buddy, I got nothing in this. I'm just a spectator. But they scratched you for having an uncontrollable dog."
Uncontrolled. Your dog went and treated a coon.
I said, "What did you say?" Well, it wasn't pretty what happened. I'm not going to go into it, but
yeah,
they put a pretty rough article on the crazy guy at the U.S. Championship. But anyway, to cut through the story, I worked in a coal mine. I'm only making $50 a day, and the entry fee was $25.
Yeah.
Well, it was kind of ugly when I went back. But anyway, they give me my money back. Called 2 state highway patrols, and the deputy sheriff escorted me to the county line and said, "Don't ever come back." And I quit night hunts for 12 to 14 years probably before I ever started back in it again. And that just shows you that anybody can have a bad hunt.
Yep.
But as age has taught me, you just kind of pull your bootstrings up and say, "Tonight's not my night."
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought, and most of the guys say, "Well, what happened tonight?" Well, Junior didn't win. I just got beat. It's not hard to say, but you're in these night hunts and everything today. Well, something happened, or they wouldn't see the coon, or some best thing whenever you get something like that. If you got a dog you can win with, you might beat me tonight, or maybe even tomorrow night, but you're not packing a good enough dog beat me 3 nights in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So you just say, "Hey, I got beat tonight," and move on.
Yep, just keep going.
Yeah, and I got one little story for you.
Okay.
And I told you about winning the big hunts, and I thought of this the other night, and I hope you put this in this because it means a lot to me.
Absolutely.
I'm coming 88 years old.
Yeah.
And there was a man. And I want you and everybody that ever listens to this to remember this name. His name was Bobby Gaines. He was from Cairo, West Virginia. And he heard about and people talked about that female I had. Well, he rang me up on the telephone. I didn't know Bobby Gaines from Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Would you mind a man going hunting? I've heard a lot of good things about that female." I said, no, I'm going. I was working in mine. I said, "Friday night, I stay pretty late." And he said, "Well, what time you want me there?" And I told him. And that's the way I met Bobby Gaines. But here's the story. After I got to know Bobby and hunting with him and things I think about today, I just wish that I could turn the clock back and say to him, "Man, you're the best tough coon hunter that Junior Pyles ever saw in his life." See, Bobby Gaines was paralyzed from the waist down at birth. They would strap him on a mule and tie him on there and eat him. And And I hear these people today talking about on hard. Think of Bobby Gaines.
Mm-hmm.
Think what that man went through. And I'll tell you, the greatest, to me, I look back on my life, just him loving a female the way he did. He did. He thought he would call me up, and I always remember this. He'd say, "Hey, you want to break a little brush?" "Yeah, Bobby, when you want to go?" And he called me one night, and he said, "Bring her over here." I said, "I'll do that." So I drove to Bobby's house. We met, took my truck, moonlight night, cold. Man, shouldn't he be hot? Frosty. We made it in, come out of there, turned her loose again. She got away from us. Anyway, went in there deep tree. Bobby said, "She's right along the road." I said, "Boy, we got a problem." I said, "What's wrong?" He had them crutches in it. He said, "That man's nasty." He said, "Well," he said, "I hope it's not on them." And I said, "Well, Bobby, I'll sneak in there and get the dog." Well, we drove on past the dog and stopped the truck. Well, he said, "She's just on the other side. You can knock that coon out if she got one. It's not then." I said, "Well, okay." So I go up, and she's probably up on a road back 30 yards. Okay. Well, sure enough, she's got a coon. All at once, I hear this noise. I thought I heard a vehicle, and I'm sweating bullets because we're awful close to this man's property.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that gravel, and I thought, man, I turned my light out, and it's bright as anything. I'll never forget that. Crutches was laying the road. Bobby Gaines come up that bank on his arm.
Oof.
And I thought he wanted to see that coon, and you know what he wanted to see?
Let's see your dog.
He said, "I just wanted to see that baby dog stuck on the side of that tree." And he was laying on his side, shining a light on that dog, just laughing. He said, "Man, what a grinder. What a true dog." And you know, in my life, that was the greatest compliment of me ever winning a world hunt, Walker Days, Southeastern Walker Days, any state championship. If I could just turn that back and say, "Bobby, do you know what I really think of you?" Because that man there, he was this old man's hero.
Yeah.
I just admired him so much. And never one time did you ever hear him complain, "I'm cold, I'm having a tough time." He enjoyed every minute of coon hunt. And I thought, I just hope people never forget the name Bobby Gaines.
Yeah. That is
He
tough.
he was pretty well known around in my little part of the country here at Ohio, on the Ohio River in West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was a hunt at Athens, Ohio, or wherever, Clarksburg, Morgantown, Bobby Gaines was there.
Yeah.
And he had a handler with him, and he was just all around good man. And I think myself and a lot of people overlooked that, how good he really was. And that's one man I really admired, and I can say he loved these Rich Fork dogs, and I'll never forget Bobby Gaines.
Mm-hmm. How could you? How can you forget a man that is paralyzed from the waist down and coon hunts just as hard as anybody else? That's insane.
Yeah, that night he would get out, and like if he was in a country road and he'd be on them crutches, he'd come right down on that road, and he'd get as close to them dogs as he could. He'd wait right there on you and say, "Man, she was a pound in that tree, wasn't she?" And I said, "Yeah, Bobby." And I believe he loved her as well as I did. I kept her, and she died at 13 years old here in my camp. And a little story about her. if you read that article that Steve Fielder had written on myself and my dad had an old canvas green collar hunting coat. When I was that little 6 and 7, 8-year-old boy, be sitting on a log and he'd put that arm around me in that coat. I'd snuggle up against him. It wouldn't be 10 minutes, I'd be asleep.
Yeah.
And he'd say, Sonny, wake up. Old Sport's got him tree. And we'd go to the tree. And I always kept that. That was a keepsake. And Steve asked me, well, whatever happened. I said, Steve, we moved to change houses. I just can't ever remember what I did with that. And one day I was out there, and it's just like your echoes of your mind. You think stuff back. What did I do with that coat? And then I thought, I remembered what I did. When I buried that baby female, I wrapped her up in that spatial coat.
Okay.
And then I took a blanket and wrapped her up in it, and then I buried her. And that's what happened to that old group. If I could put my hands on her, find one yet today. Now, remember, you're going back in the 40s and 50s. See, and I always kept that hunting coat of my dad's because it meant so much to me.
Yeah.
But also the dog, that story in itself. Before I got her broke, she treed 5 fox. She'd run 3 foxes easy. She'd run 3 coon.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad always said he come down with cancer. And he told me, he said, boy, when you get that dog broke, you're going to have a real one. And I did. She was something else. Won a lot of hunts with her. But you got a lot of stories like that the older you get. So
I'm sure.
But like I said, I love my breed of dog, and I think in the right hands and that's something else about coon hunting. It's sometimes who got the dog is you got to get them in the hands of a good. And when I say dog man, I don't mean just coon hunting.
Yeah,
I mean going to the hunts. The way he takes care of the dog, the way he trains the dog, and that. You got to get them in the right hands for them to really make a showing, I think. So, anyway.
No, absolutely.
That's definitely old man's idea. I'm sorry?
That's absolutely important. You can have you can raise the best dog in the country, and if it goes to somebody that's not going to hunt it and promote it, it could turn it, it's either going to turn into nothing or it's going to turn into a good coon dog, but no one will ever know about it.
A lot of people disagree with this, and that's fine. But Dad always told me when you are a good dog trainer, because he taught me everything I ever knew. But he said, if you can train a shy dog. I said, what, Dad? He said, when you know you're really good and can handle and train a dog is a shy dog. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? Most people don't even want to fool with them.
Yeah.
He said, what do you think makes that dog shy? And I said, Dad, I don't know. He said, they're smart. But you got to be smarter than them. They're hard to train, but once you get them trained, they are the best. Mm-hmm. And I never forgot that. And you look in the PKC record books.
Yeah.
The top winning female, she's either in the either second or third, an all-time money winner. She was crossbred, and she was shy.
Yeah.
So, anyway, and I found that out. But they're very, very hard to train, and a lot of people just either put them down or give them away or whatever. But and a lot of people won't understand it. I like the shy dog because if I get him trained and I can get him bonded with me, I never have to worry about somebody stealing that dog.
That is very true.
To come and get him off of the kennel or something like that. And but a shy dog is smart. That's what makes him play. So when a lot of people say, "Oh no, that's a fault. That's in breeding. You don't want." No, that's not number. You won't see stud dog A bred to the B dog and get 9 shy dogs. You're gonna, if it was, then you can say it's into breeding.
Yeah.
But you may get 1 out of 10, or you may get 1 out of 60 pups, but one of them's going to be shy. And that dog, you really got to put the work in. And a lot of people don't like to do that. So, but that's another story for another time. But, yeah, it's, and, like I said, with this female I got out here, that'll be my last cross of Walker dogs I'll probably make. I've been blessed to live 88 years, and I think I know my dogs, and it's hard for people to believe it back when I was a little boy. And of course, I was an only child, an only son, and me and my dad were like just inseparable. Mm-hmm. Everything he did, I did with him. When I was a kid, we fished, we squirrel hunted. Every kid in this small town that I live in, back in late 40s, everybody had a dog and everybody had a gun. Yeah. Now, a lot of people today, oh, you can't, when I tell them, hey, I was 6 years old and got a Model 60 Winchester. Mm-hmm. Oh, my goodness, what kind of people would do that? Well, you know, you learned in life and they taught you. And kids knew how to hunt and do stuff, but they don't now.
Absolutely.
And you would probably be in trouble if you give a 6-year-old kid a 22 rifle. But it's a different time, different life.
Absolutely.
It will never, ever be that way again.
Unfortunately.
But, yeah. But anyway, that's pretty well covered my life. And when I tell people I got my first dog when I was 6 years old, I'm now 88, and I've never been without a dog.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's been a good life, I'm telling you. I've been blessed in many, many ways. Many friends, many people I know. And I can name a bunch of them. Frank Proctor's turning 90 years old. And he'll tell you, when you turn a hugger dog loose, they're going to be treed someplace. You're going hunting. And he always liked them. He had a dual grand out of hugger. And but those dogs, that show dog put good quality dogs all over the country back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me tonight. I really do.
Well, I hope it turns out all right.
Oh, absolutely.
If anybody wants to call and talk about Walker dogs or just coonhounds in general, I got a lot of time on my hands and love to talk about dogs. So my number is 740-228-2542. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep them talking in the timber.